lot of the rankings going on right now, I feel like, are very political. And, you know, for me to give a non-biased ranking, and, you know, I don't feel like there's 25 stars in the country. I feel like there's...
It's your boy Crispy, the Keep It Crispy podcast. We are back in the building, another blessed day. We got a real special guest in the building today. Came all the way from Queens, New York.
Yes, sir.
My brother, if you guys are following the hoop circuit, you definitely know who this is right here. He's got a crazy story. Can't wait to share it and ask some questions. So without further ado, my brother Jake.
My boy, I appreciate you having me, bro.
For sure, man. I appreciate you being on here. Like, a lot of people that are watching this are going to be really, you know, inspired after you share, you know, what you got to share with them.
Yeah, bro, I appreciate that, man. Hey, with the right platform, which is what you got going on, like, sharing my story is perfect, bro.
Yeah, nah, for sure. So me and Jake, man, we've been, you know, back and forth, you know, texting on Instagram for a while now. Mm-hmm. So I always wanted to know exactly, you know, what you did and stuff like that. So that's why I'm happy you're here, so we could get into it and, you know, kind of give the people the other side of the journey.
Yeah, shoot, the journey's been crazy. So yeah, born and raised in Queens, New York, and when I was born, I grew up with epilepsy. So that was a crazy part of my life. Grew out of it when I was 13, but epilepsy, I mean, for those who don't know, you get seizures. It's a condition. It's a tough one. Growing up, a lot of people said, you know, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. Played ball a lot. I played at a high level. Obviously, I was very short, so, you know, I didn't know.
Same thing with me.
Dream wasn't crazy for me, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people said I couldn't do stuff, but I loved sports. My uncle was a news reporter for the New York Post, covered sports. My dad loved sports, grandpa's uncles, everybody loved sports, and, you know, they instilled that in me. And obviously I wasn't going to make the NBA at 5'5", 5'9", but I wanted to find another way to be involved in sports. So when I was 14 years old, I started working for this little local website where I was writing articles about baseball, basketball, hockey, and whatnot. And then I'd say around 15, I went to Madison Square Garden, the Mecca. I mean, it's the best arena in the world. It's not even close. Sure. And Kentucky was playing Kansas, and I'm sitting behind a hoop, and I see a big crowd of media members in the crowd, and they're surrounding a kid. And I'm kind of confused, like, what the deal was. I didn't really know what was going on. The person behind me says, "Oh, that's the #1 recruit in the country. That's Quade Green." So I was like, "Oh, so, like, he's a recruit? He's a high school player?" And they're like, "Yeah, he's a high school kid, very highly touted." And, you know, I liked the idea of what they were doing over there. I didn't know much about it yet, but I liked the idea that a high school kid, you know, had that much, you know, hype around him. Yeah. And that was when I started, you know, looking into the recruiting scene. And I started at the grassroots level. And actually, a little backstory, I was a camp counselor. I was a camp counselor in Pennsylvania, and I wasn't really enjoying it. It wasn't really for me. And about 2-3 weeks into the camp, I had thought about quitting, and that's when a company named Elevate Hoops, I don't know if they still exist now, but a company named Elevate Hoops offered me an internship at 14 years old. What? So for me, it was kind of one of those things where, yeah, it's like grassroots, it's not NBA, it's nothing crazy, but I want to do it. Like, I want to travel, I want to write, you know, I want to watch basketball, and that was a start for me. And from there, I'd say a year or two later, I started my own website, and shoot, it took off.
Nah, that's awesome, man. So let's break this down. Before we even get into guys like the hoopers and the awesome people that you've worked with, let's rewind a little bit to when you were growing up and everybody was telling you, you know, you can't do this, like you're not going to be able to function or whatever they were saying. Like, how were you able to overcome that at such a young age?
Watching sports. You know, even as a little kid, I had a notepad. I was, you know, writing players' names down. I still have them to this day. I was writing players' names down, writing stats, collecting trading cards, collecting memorabilia. Just, you know, sports kept me alive. And I know it might sound a little cliche, but, you know, sports is really what kept me going, whether it was in school or, you know, whether it was going to camp or whether it was, you know, even trying to go outside, shoot a basketball, play baseball, whatever it was, sports kept me going. And, you know, without basketball now, I mean, I don't know where I would be.
Nah, that's crazy because it's such like a similar story to myself. You know, being 5'5", 5'6", like I always had, you know, dreams of going to the NBA, and like I really believed it. And I would always watch like, you know, Stephon Marbury. That was my favorite player, Sebastian Telfair. And I'm like, yo, I'm gonna definitely make it. But you know, there comes a point where you gotta just realize like obviously that's not gonna be happening.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So you gotta, you know, kind of pivot to what you actually wanted to do. So when you felt that time, like, you know, wow, I'm not really gonna make it, that's just the reality of it. Like, how did you feel when you pivoted into the other section of You know what I mean?
It was definitely a crazy transition. Cause like I said, I was playing ball a little bit. Obviously, it wasn't at the highest level of AAU, but I played a little bit. And obviously, with my epilepsy, I couldn't travel and hoop ball that often. But I was still doing what I can. Played in school and whatnot. But that transition was good for me. Especially starting at grassroots. Elevate Hoops was a huge opportunity. At 15 years old, I was traveling through Jersey, through Philadelphia, and through Pennsylvania as well. And it was a good opportunity to watch hoops and write, and that's what I wanted to do. And through there, I was just grinding, and they seen me. I was 15 years old. I was working with a bunch of older guys, and blending in was a little tough. But they seen me working at a young age, and I feel like that's a big part of what got me to where I'm at today.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like that must have been crazy. At 15, most people are out there trying to party, girls, this and that, cutting school, and you're out here with like real influential professional people writing articles. That must have been crazy,
bro. Yeah, it was wild. And John Rothstein, who works for CBS Sports now, he's huge in the college basketball space.
For sure.
He actually showed up to one of the grassroots events, surprisingly, and he pushed out a shout out for me. He was like, "I'm here at the Elevate Hoops event, and there's a 15-year-old working for him. Like, just be on the lookout for the come up." And I'm glad he was right. There was a come up, and yeah, I'm here now.
Bro, that's amazing, man. Like, for all the athletes out there that are watching, like, just let them know if that's not in their future, being a professional basketball player, there are other avenues that you can take in the sport.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And, that's kind of where I'm blessed to have a platform now, because I do have kids reach out every so often, and they're like, if not basketball, then what? And I'm like, write about it. You could still watch. You could still have that love for the game. You don't got to be a NBA All-Star or Division I athlete to have a love for the game. So, yeah, like I tell kids all the time, if you're watching this, reach out. Ask me any questions. Eventually, I'm gonna start internships for younger kids, so that they can start writing and cover the game at a high scale.
Oh, that's a huge, that's a whole nother section that not many people talk about. And for you to, be younger generation and motivating people to do that, like what we're doing here with the podcast, obviously I'm not gonna, be playing Division I or anything like that, but I still love hoops, and I still want to give people opportunities.
Hey, we can go to the rec and we can still,
we can still, we can ball it up at LA Fitness or something.
100%, bro. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that guys like us got the platform to help the younger generation out. Shoot, even the older generation, I got guys finishing college or in college now that are kind of like, I want to write at this scale. I want to write about basketball. I wasn't able to play, but I love it, and I think it's such a good thing for the game.
Yeah, no, that's dope, man. So talk to us about Elevate Hoops. How long was you with them for?
Elevate Hoops was kind of a short stint for me. It was kind of like almost a year and a half, but yeah, it was a lot of traveling, grassroots, so it wasn't like Nike or Under Armour, but there were Nike teams that when they were eliminated from their circuits, they would come over and play the grassroots team. So like Jalen Duren, who's on the Detroit Pistons now, I watched him play in 8th grade for team final at one of these Elevate Hoops events. He was still at the same stature. He was still huge. And, guys like that, you get to see come across. And at my age, I'm kind of like, wow, they got high-level offers. These are guys that are NBA prospects. It's huge to see at that age. So Elevate Hoops, once again, was a great opportunity for the year and a half I had it.
Yeah, no, that's fire. Wow. So would you say you have an eye for a player that you think is going to go far and going to make it?
Humbly speaking, yeah. I feel like I identify talent a little different than people. It's not necessarily all about the on-skill tangibles. It's about character on the court, being coachable. Which I think is huge on and off the court. But yeah, I think, seeing talent, you have to have an eye for it. And, I've scouted tons of guys over the last few years, and I'm happy to say that a lot of them have made it to where I thought they'd make it. So
that's amazing.
It's very humbling, and, it's awesome to see. I feel like that's one of the best parts about it. You watch a kid go from a high school freshman to an NBA prospect, and it's fun to see.
I definitely agree, man. Even with me, with the clothing with Crispy NYC, we've seen a lot of players from junior year. Jonathan Kuminga was one of our first, ever athletes to rock the shorts, and to see him where he's at now at the Warriors, every year of the way, it definitely is
champion.
Yeah, nah, for sure. So shout out to you, JK,
yes,
out
sir.
there. But all right, so cool. So after the internship, what happened after that?
So my dad and I kind of sat down, and I don't have a problem with having a boss. I don't have a problem with being coached. Like I said, you got to be coachable. But I told my dad I kind of want to do my own thing. I feel like I blossom more that way. And, obviously I'll be able to build more connections as being my own boss. And, nobody would have to tell me no. But yeah, I started StockRisers.com. Someone gave me the idea of that name. And, I turned it into a WordPress website. So when I turned 16, we invested $60 into the WordPress website. And from there, I was interviewing guys off rip, Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith Jr. A lot of those guys that are in the NBA now were some of my first few interviews. Terrence Clark, rest in peace, my brother, but he was one of my first few interviews as well. So just investing in my own website happened at 16 years old, and that was right after Elevate Hoops. And then during COVID, F5 Networks, which is a big-time network brand, they decided they wanted to buy out my website and just fully re-engineer it. So I work with them now on my website, and yeah, starting that website at 16 was huge for me. Huge.
Yeah, we got to talk about that. So we have a lot of younger athletes, 14, 15. Like, when you started that website, you're still in high school, right? When you started that?
Still in high school at the time, yep.
Wow. So how did you think you juggled school and running an entire website?
It was difficult for sure. Obviously, high school education is not the craziest level of education, but a lot of the kids at the high school level, they got different types of hobbies. They like to be out in the parks. They like to be out at night, just roaming around, going on their bikes, whatever it is. And I enjoyed doing those things and hanging out with my friends. But, my hobby was writing and watching the game. So I think it was easy for me to, balance school and balance my website, especially when you love it. Like, when you love something, you don't really view it as work. And I'm sure you can attest to that.
Yeah.
But, I was going home, writing my articles, making my phone calls, still traveling, going to see games. At 16, I was able to see Christ the King had a crazy team at 16 years old.
Christ the King.
They had Jose Alvarado, Kofi Coburn, Tyson Walker, Musa Cisse. Like, they had all those guys. Moses Brown and Cole Anthony and Caleb Moore were at Malloy. So New York City basketball was crazy at the time. And obviously I was traveling, but to have that level of basketball in town was also very huge for my website as well.
No, that's awesome, man. Yeah. So, like, after when you had the website, like, how did you know when F5 Networks, they approached you to buy it out? How did that happen?
Yeah, so they reached out and they were like, we want to make your website our national website. So they had, some colleges like Texas A&M, Oregon, USC, like, they had team-based sites, and they were like, we want to bring this recruiting stuff to another level. And I was like, let's do it. Why not? And they fully re-engineered it. I had to buy out my WordPress domain and leave WordPress, and then I had to give them the domain, and then they had to rebuild the website, and they make it look beautiful, man. I mean, wow. I was grateful for whatever it looked like, but, just to have that type of opportunity come across where a network like that is like, we like your website so much, we want to put it on a national scale. It was a very big opportunity for me that I couldn't turn down.
Bro, guys, if you don't know what F5 Network is, I'm pretty sure you do. That's one of the biggest sports networks. That's amazing, man.
Yeah, bro, I appreciate that. But it was huge. And like I said, they made the website look beautiful, and it was just a good opportunity I couldn't turn down.
Yeah. So how old were you when that happened?
That was the first year. That was right when COVID hit. So I was turning 19 at the time. So at 19, it was one of those things where I was seeing how their websites looked, and I was seeing the opportunity at hand. People were able to go on my website now, subscribe. I had my own rankings for a little bit. I was able to put ads on the site. Like, it was just a cool opportunity.
ESPN rankings type thing.
Yeah, and like I told my dad, it made me feel like a nice little young entrepreneur at a young age. It felt like that was the come up right there. Like, that was the opportunity I needed, and it definitely was for sure.
Yeah, man. I feel like these days and ages, like the industry needs more young and up and coming entrepreneurs like you that are out there making their own rankings, doing their own articles and stuff like that. Because it's a different time now we're in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And the rankings thing, I wasn't so crazy about it first. And I'm still not crazy to it this day. But, to be able to, show people how I feel about a player, or, a lot of the rankings going on right now, I feel like are very political. And, for me to give a non-biased ranking, and, I don't feel like there's 25 stars in the country. I feel like there's guys that there could be 55 stars.
100%.
What's the difference between the 21st ranked player and the 22nd? 1 star. Like, it's really, it's a crazy thing. So to be able to have my own rankings and do it my way, it was a cool opportunity for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely true, man. So when your Stock Risers was bought out, did you see like more opportunities come your way once the news got out that happened?
A cool story actually. Once that happened, and my website was a little bit more popping. Dwayne Wade, who's one of my favorite players ever. I was able to work with his son Zaire. I was able to post some of his college offers, and D Wade hit me with a follow, which I don't get that crazy often about those types of things. But D Wade, one of my favorite players all the time, he was also messaging me and recognized my website. So definitely more opportunity came in. I was able to interview Jamal Crawford too off rip, and it was one of those things where I got to interview or talk to two of my favorite players of all time off rip just through that opportunity. So it definitely brought me a lot more opportunities.
Yeah,
for sure.
nah, for sure, man. And tell everybody, like, what do you think, like, led to you being able to sell that website to them? Like, what was your main, like, focus in your head while you were building Stock Rise? Was it to sell it, or was it to just...
Not even. I wouldn't even say that. My main focus was just keep my head down and keep grinding, and whatever comes through, if it's the right opportunity, then I'll definitely explore it. So I was on the grassroots scene, and then I hit the circuits, and I was doing the same thing I was doing, and then it led to that opportunity. And even after I was bought out, I did the same thing. I kept my same routine, same way I went about working. I kept doing it. Like, that's the thing. Like I said earlier, if you love something, you don't really view it as work. So I was just doing the same thing every day, and the opportunity came along. So
would you say consistency is very important?
Consistency is huge, and like I said, when young people reach out, I say you got to be consistent. Like, especially communication's huge in this industry. So if you're reaching out to a player and you interview them one time, don't make that the only time you interview them. Like, a lot of people say on my website, I interview the same players, multiple times. Why not? Like, that's part of consistency. Like, that's part of being a part of progression and seeing them progress. So consistency is huge in this industry, and I'm sure you know that for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things of all. Like, when you're trying to get to a goal, you got to do the same thing over and over, repetitive every day until it actually happens.
100%.
So that's dope to hear, like, another side of it like that.
Yeah,
so that's pretty cool. So after you sold Stock Risers, what did you get into after that?
I started getting into the agency scene. So NIL was kind of beginning at the time, but with all the connections I had, I told you through text, I'd worked with over 1,000 hoopers at this point. Multiple, over 100 guys get drafted, that I've worked with in the past, interviewed, all that type of stuff. And I thought to myself, I'm about to go to the University of Louisville. And why not manage some of the guys over there? I was able to manage Jalen Withers and DeAndre Davis, who you just had on episode.
For sure.
And that was a huge opportunity for me. My first agency job was with Beyond Athlete Management. Daniel Poneman was the founder of that, and he's a Mac McClung's agent. He represents a bunch of guys now. And he's like a big brother to me, but he gave me an opportunity to come in, recruit some guys to manage them, represent them, and that was one of those things where I was helping guys handle their day-to-day. I was trying to get them deals. I was going to their games, supporting, just being a part of the day-to-day process. I found it really cool. I'm more of a relationship guy than, just show up to work and, leave afterwards. Like, these guys are, I become friends with them. They become brothers, and, I seen it that way. And in the recruiting industry, you can't really have those type of relationships. You got to keep it strictly work. But, I wanted to be at a point where, I could have relationships with these guys, and I was able to do that through the agency scene. So Beyond Athlete Management was my start of the agency scene.
Oh, that's pretty dope. Yeah. Wow. So I always wanted to know, I know a couple of agents like that, but I never got to, like, speak to them about it. Like, what is the day-to-day agent life seem like? Like, what is your responsibilities? What are you know what I mean?
Yeah, so I'll use my first year as an example. So during April of, I want to say 2021 I was able to go to Chicago. The NBA Combine was going on pre-draft. So I was able to go to Chicago. There were guys working out over there, Beyond Athlete. They had about 7 guys in that draft class. So the day-to-day then was wake up, eat breakfast, obviously, get your stuff done in the morning, go to the gym. These guys were working out 2-3 times a day during the pre-draft. Mac McClung is a crazy grinder, bro.
Yeah.
That dude be grinding. Like,
how does he get up that high? That's what I want to know.
That's the thing. He's not just bouncing, and that was probably one of the coolest moments of the pre-draft process, was seeing him grind, because growing up, everyone was like, this guy's just a dunker or whatever, but this man was in the gym 2-3 times a day, probably took over 300 shots a session. He's taking jump shots, mid-range, 3 points. He's going to the rim. There were about 2-3 trainers on the court, hitting him with pads, and it's a real grind, and the day-to-day with them was crazy. With the guys I managed, at least on the day-to-day, it was kind of wake up, get business done. We had a couple of guys. We did have a guy that had a clothing brand a couple of years ago. He had a little clothing deal, so nice. That was one of the first deals I negotiated. So it was like, get on a phone call, get the business stuff done, get in the gym, regular day-to-day stuff. And I always tell people, because people think that these hoopers live like this crazy life, and some of them do for sure, but a lot of them are just normal dudes. Like, they just wake up, go to the gym, eat, do what we do. It's just basketball is their job. So to be a part of that and see it and just know that they're normal guys, it made it even cooler that you can connect to them on that level.
Yeah, no, that's dope, man. Just being around like the everyday, process and stuff like that, seeing people grow. I'm sure that was a cool experience.
Yeah, like I said earlier, watching the progression is such a cool thing. Like a guy like DeAndre, who you just had on, like I was able to connect with him his freshman, sophomore year of high school. He was just a 3-star prospect. And
they went back that far, huh?
Yeah, and I happened to be at Louisville, and that's where he ended up committing. So the relationship started before Louisville, continued through Louisville, and now he's in New Jersey right next to me. So I mean, it's just convenient, and it's crazy how life works through the game of basketball for sure.
It's crazy. Look, we just had him on the show because of you, which is dope.
Hey, it's crazy, bro. Basketball brings people together. Like I said, it's more than a game.
Definitely, 100%. Wow. So what are some other deals that you closed, for some, athletes or anything?
So like I said, I've done clothing deals. When I was in Louisville, I was able to get a couple local restaurant deals. I've gotten a couple different marketing deals and such. With the last agency we were at, the last agency I was at is Next Sports Agency. I just, parted ways with them now, but those are my guys still for sure. But my guy Brandon Wigley over there, we worked on some projects, and he's about to do this little TikTok live thing that he just got started.
Oh, that's fine.
They've worked with Powerade. They've worked with TurboTax. There's been a bunch of different companies. So the NIL scene's crazy. Like who would have thought a college kid would be in a TurboTax commercial?
That's 5 years ago, never.
It's crazy, like the opportunity that came across, and obviously, like this year with a couple of guys we were able to work with you. Miles Studi and Jaden Taylor are two guys you work with, and Miles was obviously a guy who had worn your stuff before.
Yeah.
So when I came to him and said, would you want to work with Crispy, it was no doubt for him. Like he's no-brainer for him, and his shirt is crazy, and that's probably my favorite deal so far that I've ever coordinated is working with you. So I'm just gonna keep going. There's a bunch of different partnerships I'm gonna announce coming soon. So yeah.
Nah, I'm excited, man. You know what? It's crazy because you said the NIL changed everything. Like you, I was in the same boat, with the clothing, and I would be, sponsoring athletes, giving them free gear, letting them know that, they trying to create relationships because that's hoops is what it's all about for me too. And I was doing it way before the NIL came. NIL came, and then all of a sudden I see so many people like doing all these crazy commercials and everything. I'm like, that's so crazy because back then it wasn't like that.
Yeah, bro, and even now, like it gives guys the opportunity. I tell guys, don't take every deal. Like if a little bad comes along, like you don't have to take it. Take a deal that's true to you. So I said to Jaden and I said to Miles, I said, do you see this as like a fit for you? Like, is this something like you want to do? Like, don't just do it because the money's involved. Like, do you want to do this? And those are two guys that are very humble, very cool. Like, money's not the number one focus. And they were like, yeah, especially Miles. He was like, that's a dude. I've worn his stuff before. Working with him is going to be crazy. So
yeah, that's fine.
It's just crazy how stuff works. But yeah, you got to stay true to yourself in this NIL stuff for sure.
Nah, 100%, man. Wow. So now it's time to humbly flex on them just a little bit. So name some of the hoopers that you've worked with before they actually got to where they're at now.
Shoot, I say the biggest one is Chet Holmgren.
That's dope.
So his dad actually reached out to me when he was about a freshman or sophomore, and he didn't have his hype yet, but that's a guy right there that reached out to me off rip, and I was able to work with him at a high scale, interviewed him plenty of times, and I'd say the second biggest one right behind him is Paolo. So Paolo Banchero. Wow. When he was a sophomore, and I have the receipts to this day, I have a text chat with him where I said to him, I'm literally the only person who thinks you're the top ranked player in the country right now. Jeez. Like I said, I still got the receipts, and Paulo is a dude that, I've interviewed probably over 5-6 times. I was big in reporting on his recruitment. Jabari Smith is another guy. There's a lot of guys that, been drafted very high. Malachi Branham recently for the Spurs. Jake and Ivy I interviewed once or twice. There's just a bunch of the top picks now, but I'd say Chet and Paulo are two guys that, I told them when they were younger, man. I told them when they were freshmen or sophomores, like, you'll be there eventually. And that's a humble flex, like I said.
Yeah, were they ranked at that time?
Paulo wasn't ranked number one. I'd say he was, like, right outside of the 20s. But I said to him, I'm like, there's not 19, 20 guys that are better than you. Like, not at all. And, like I said, I kept the receipts. When I interviewed Jamal Crawford, so Jamal Crawford and Paulo are from the same town. That was one thing we connected on is just how we thought of Paulo. and because not many people agreed that he was the top player at the time. So I think it was huge for that to happen. And then, like I said, with Chet, the first time I ever tweeted about Chet when he was a sophomore, I actually tweeted his name wrong. So so like that was one thing where like his dad was like, yeah, just fix the last name, but like I appreciate you putting something out there. Like nobody really is putting anything out there about him yet. So it was just a cool opportunity. You see those guys now, and it's just crazy to think that I was working with those kids when they were freshmen, sophomore, and to see where they're at now is insane. That's
so crazy you say that, man. It's so crazy how the worlds collide, because with fashion and what I'm doing, like I'm always about athletes, and to see some of these athletes rock my stuff like freshmen. My man Scoot Henderson's a perfect example.
Him too, bro.
I knew he was like the one back when he was a sophomore. And, I was creating relationships. We hung out in Miami. I've given him a lot of clothes. He's rocking it. He supports, which is dope. And now to see, like, going all the way to the NBA top 3 pick is amazing, man.
Hey, that's my rookie of the year right there.
Yeah.
That's my early rookie. That's my rookie of the year right there. He just came out and said he's going to win it right there. I'd say either him or Chet. But, Scoot's another guy, like you just said, like, just seeing the growth. And, like, he had your clothes on. I seen during pre-draft.
Oh, that was
which
amazing,
is huge.
man.
That's so dope to see.
That was the biggest time.
That was dope to see. But Scoot's another guy, like he's a very humble kid. So my uncle was at the draft and said to Scoot, you know what stockrisers.com is? He's like, yeah, I remember what stockrisers.com is.
I've seen that video.
So I put that out. So yeah, it's just moments like that, and like I said, you can attest to this stuff. Those are the best moments.
It really is, bro.
Those are just, there's nothing like it. You see these guys grow, and they remember. They don't just throw it away.
It's amazing.
They gonna do the big time stuff. Like they remember, and it's just so dope to see.
Nah, that's for sure, bro. Out of all the people that you interviewed, do you seem to like have one similarity with like all the high achievers that you've interviewed? Like,
yeah. I just say, talking about the grind, obviously, like, it's different. I'm not waking up 6 a.m. and going to put up 500 shots. I might wake up some days and go to the gym at that time, but I'm not doing what they do. But just to talk about the grind and, like, doing what you love at a high rate, that's something that I've connected with on pretty much all the guys I interview. I'll get the interview done, and then there'll be some, like, conversation before and after. Like I said, it's good to build relationships with these guys. Don't always make it about what offer they got, what spot in the draft do they think they're going to go. Like, talk about life. Like, it's basketball is more than a game, and you got to keep the connections going. So I just say, like, a similarity I got with a lot of these guys is just doing what I love and doing it at a high rate.
Man, that's dope. That really is, man. Is there any players you would love to work with that you haven't worked with yet?
I would love, and this is going to sound cliche, I would love to interview LeBron. I think, LeBron's just been a marquee person in my generation. And, just to hear what he says off the court and, see how he feels about the game and how he feels about his business and goes about his days, I feel like is really cool. And one person I wanted to interview so bad was Kobe. Long live Kobe.
Yeah.
That was someone I wanted to interview so bad. So, just interviewing those guys that, were very high up in my generation is very important to me. So, hopefully one day.
Yeah, nah, for sure. You're just getting started. So.
Yeah, I'm 22, so hopefully eventually I'll get to that point. Yeah.
I was 22 wilding out. I don't remember what I was doing, man. So, again, that's much respect to you,
Appreciate you, bro.
That's amazing. So, in like 5 years from now, where do you see yourself?
So I'm about to take this opportunity with Young Money. So that's, I see.
Guys, that's Young Money, Lil Wayne.
Yeah,
Money,
Lil Wayne, man. So Weezy started a sports agency, and I'm humbled to get an opportunity to be able to work with them. Adi Van Gontard and Noah Reisenfeld were two guys that, I was able to talk to and get this opportunity from. So big ups to them. I appreciate them. But, that's something I want to build on for the long term. I just started working with them. So 5 years from now, I hope to, be up top with those guys for sure.
Bro, we got to just pause real quick. We're talking about the legendary Lil Wayne Young Money agency. Jake, you got to tell us how that happened, bro.
Yeah,
how that all came up.
Yeah, so I don't even mind talking about that process because, Next Sports Agency, like I said, those were guys I have a lot of appreciation for. They gave me an opportunity to, work on myself and, better myself in this space and, use and be a stepping stone, humbly speaking. And, Young Money came across and I talked to them and it was just a no-brainer for me, just to, one thing they said is you can come in here and, it's a family vibe and you could be your own boss. And, obviously, like, Lil Wayne's in my top 5. I think he's in everybody's top 5.
Sure.
He's arguably the GOAT. So, just to, work with him. And he was epileptic also. I don't think a lot of people know that. Yeah, he suffered from seizures as well. So, to be able to work with him and, work a part of what he's trying to build an empire. To go in the sports space and the situation he's in, he didn't even need to do it. Like, if we're being real, like,
for sure,
he didn't even need to enter that space. So for him to enter that space and for me to get an opportunity to work with him at a high scale and work with that people, and like I said, it's a family vibe over there. Like, just working with them for almost a week already, like, just seeing how it's been. I mean, it feels like a family, but, between that and the whole Wheezy thing, like, it was a no-brainer for me.
Nah, man.
No-brainer.
That's amazing. Are you, like, one of the youngest agents now? You have to be.
So I'm not certified agent yet, but I'm probably one of the youngest people, like, in this field.
In the field.
So, I mean, it's crazy, bro. It's
fire, man.
It's hard to speak about sometimes. It's so crazy. It's wild.
You ever seen the show Ballers on HBO?
Yeah,
is it like...
I told my boys in school, like, that's how I want to live one day. Like, I'm trying to live that life. Like, that lifestyle is crazy. And that,
course.
Ballers is a show I watched for sure. And, yeah, I mean, I want to get there one day, man.
Nah, that's dope, man. So so real quick, do you have any advice or what advice would you have for any up-and-coming, whether it's athletes or somebody that wants to be in the industry you're in, about writing and recruiting?
Yeah, the best advice I can give you is, just stay at it. Don't put your head down, and don't listen to outside noise. I think, one thing I did very well is ignore outside noise. Like I said earlier, a lot of people told me I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, and, blocking that stuff out is huge. And school wasn't big for me, like, coming up, and that doesn't mean, don't skip school, like, don't do any of that. But, like, if school's not it for you, then there's another route for you. People said I wouldn't go to a big school. People said I couldn't go to university. I'd probably have to stay local, go to community college. But, through what I did and through my website and, just who I was as a person, I was able to get the opportunity to go to Louisville. So I just tell people all the time, stay at it, block outside noise, and don't be afraid to ask for advice. That's another big thing.
That's a big one.
If there's someone, you look up to or someone you feel like you should reach out to, do it. Like, don't even hesitate because, asking questions and getting answers is huge in this industry. And, that's one big thing for me is I didn't shy away from asking for advice and I was coachable. And like I said, being coachable and being consistent is very big and it'll take you a long way.
Nah, man, you said it exactly. Consistency is huge. I always preach that and you said it perfectly. So that's pretty dope, man. You want to shout out anybody real quick?
Shout out to my family, of course. Like, that's a no-brainer right there. My mom, my dad, my sister. I got 2 little cats at home too, so shout out to them. But and yeah, just shout out to everybody that believed in me. I mean, I'm on the Crispy podcast, man.
We out here, man.
I'm here before the come up of the podcast, and I'm glad.
There you go. We not even at 100 subscribers yet, but watch, we gonna be way out there.
You're gonna be there for sure.
For sure. 100%. I appreciate you, man. Now, before we wrap it up, we gotta ask you one last question, which we ask every guest. Mm-hmm. Our motto is "The world is yours." So, in your own words, what does that mean to you?
Hold on, give me a second, man. It could be so many different things. Yeah. To phrase it in my own way, just be you. Do your own thing. Like I said before, like, if you want something, go get it. That's the best way to put that. I feel like I always actually said when I was younger, I'm on top of the world, and I feel like that kind of relates to that. But yeah, just like doing your own thing and, being at the top. And like I said, I want to be my own boss and, I want to go, do things my own way and be creative and be unique. And I feel like that signifies that perfectly right there.
Yeah, nah, for sure. We all got our own spin on The World Is Yours, man. Got to go out there, go get it. That's what the podcast is all about. Appreciate you having you here, Jake, man, yes, for sure. What we're going to do now is we're going to walk around the shop real quick. We're going to pick a pair of shorts, whatever your favorite one is. You can have it. You got your eye on one? So for whoever's out there watching, just comment below what you think his favorite pair is going to be. And we'll pick one winner, and you guys can have that pair as well. So you already know. Keep it crispy. We out.
Yes, sir.